What if ruins older than Earth itself were hidden beneath our feet? What if the stories written in stone and dust were only the newest pages in a book that has been rewritten for billions of years? Imagine a time before the continents we know existed, before the oceans formed their borders, before the sun even became our star. Could intelligence, in some form beyond our comprehension, have once shaped the matter that would one day become this planet? Could the Earth itself be built upon the buried echoes of civilizations that lived and vanished long before the world we know began? Modern science tells us the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. Yet, within that unimaginable expanse of time, life, as we define it, has occupied only the briefest moment. Humanity has existed for a mere flicker, less than 1 second in the cosmic timeline. If everything we call history fits into that fraction, what might have filled the countless eons before us? The rocks beneath us have melted, reformed, and shifted so many times that almost nothing remains of their earliest stories. But what if something did remain? Hidden not in the layers of stone, but in the very structure of the planet itself. Every grain of sand, every fragment of mineral, every element on Earth was born from an older star. Our planet is not the beginning. It's an inheritance. Matter has memory. It carries the vibrations of what came before, encoded in atomic patterns and magnetic alignments. Scientists call it isotopic resonance. Mystics call it the memory of creation. If that memory could speak, what would it tell us? Would it whisper of worlds that existed before ours, whose civilizations left no ruins of metal or clay, but imprints of consciousness scattered across galaxies? There are clues, fragments that defy the linear model of history. Metallic spheres found deep within ancient rock strata, perfectly shaped, older than any known life form. Crystalline structures that appear engineered yet predate humanity by billions of years. Fossilized patterns in mineral veins that resemble circuitry. To mainstream science, these are coincidences, natural anomalies. But to those who dare to look deeper, they might be remnants of something far greater. Evidence of a time when intelligence was not bound to biology, when consciousness itself might have taken physical form, manipulating matter like clay. If that sounds impossible, remember how fragile our own assumptions are. Not long ago, the idea of plate tectonics was dismissed as fantasy. The existence of other galaxies was unthinkable. The deep ocean was believed lifeless. Each time we think we've reached the limit of understanding, the universe humbles us. Perhaps we've made the same mistake with time, assuming it moves in one direction, assuming we are its first intelligent witnesses. But what if time is cyclical? What if civilizations rise and fall not once but endlessly, their memories dissolving into the fabric of reality, waiting to be rediscovered? In that sense, the Earth could be more than a planet. It could be a vault, a living archive containing the echoes of every age that came before. The layers of the planet are not just geological, they are historical, energetic, even conscious. When we dig into the crust, we are not merely uncovering fossils. We are touching the scars of forgotten worlds. And maybe, deep within that silence, something is still aware, still waiting to be remembered. What would it mean if the first architects of intelligence did not live on the surface, but within the very body of the Earth? Entities that guided its formation, shaped its elements, and then vanished into myth. Could they have been the gods before the gods, the precursors that ancient texts allude to but never fully describe? Civilizations that predate even time as we measure it? This isn't just speculation. It's an invitation to look beyond the narrow frame of human history, to question the comfort of our timelines, and to listen for the whispers that lie beneath. Because somewhere underfoot, in the heat and pressure of the Earth's ancient veins, might sleep the proof that we are not the beginning, only another chapter in an endless cycle of awakening. So before we go further, I want to ask you, what do you think lies beneath us? Do you believe it's possible that civilizations older than the Earth itself once existed? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective adds to this collective search for truth, for meaning, for remembrance. And if you feel that deep pull, that strange familiarity when you hear about forgotten worlds and lost knowledge, then this journey is for you. Subscribe, like, and share this video, not just to support the channel, but to join a community of explorers who believe that truth isn't found in what we know, but in what we dare to imagine. Because tonight, as we descend into the layers of deep time, we might discover that the ruins we seek aren't buried in stone at all. They might be buried within us, waiting for the moment when memory once again awakens from... If we dig deep enough, we eventually find that the earth is not solid beneath our feet, but layered like memory itself. Every stratum is a story, compressed and rewritten over billions of years. Yet, as we descend, something strange begins to happen. The further back we go, the less sense our human scale of time makes. Fossils vanish, stone transforms. The line between matter and energy begins to blur. What if, hidden within these depths, there are traces not of simple geological processes, but of something far older? Structures that predate biology, patterns that whisper of intention, of design. Imagine looking into the oldest rocks and realizing that they are not merely the remnants of a young Earth, but the ruins of a civilization so ancient it existed before the planet was fully formed. An epoch when consciousness may have taken shape not in flesh, but in the very minerals that would, one day, form continents and oceans. Science tells us that before the Earth coalesced, there was dust, cosmic dust, born from the death of ancient stars. Within that dust were elements forged in unimaginable heat, scattered across the galaxy like seeds. These elements, iron, carbon, silicon, are the building blocks of both life and technology. But what if they carried more than physical properties? What if they carried patterns, information, the residual memory of intelligent systems that existed long before our solar system came into being? It's a possibility that disturbs the boundary between creation and inheritance. If matter remembers, then perhaps the very atoms that make us were once part of something that thought, that created, that understood. And maybe, when these atoms gathered to form the Earth, they brought with them fragments of that memory, buried deep within the core of the world. It's difficult for us to imagine intelligence that doesn't look like us. We picture minds housed in brains, civilizations made of stone and metal. But what if awareness existed in forms that defy our biology? Imagine intelligence expressed through magnetic fields, through the resonance of minerals, through vibrations of plasma drifting between stars. A civilization that never needed to build cities because it was the city itself, its architecture woven into the molecular structure of the universe. Perhaps the Earth, in its infancy, was not merely forming but remembering. Those strange magnetic anomalies, those unexplained crystalline alignments found deep within the planet's crust. Could they be echoes of that first consciousness, the fingerprints of a forgotten order? This is where our understanding of time begins to fail us. Because in this view, the past isn't behind us, it's beneath us, and it's still alive. The Earth is not a graveyard, but a sleeping archive. And every earthquake, every eruption, every shift of the plates might be its way of rearranging those memories, rewriting the surface for the next chapter. Could it be that the planet itself is a living organism, not metaphorically but literally? And what we call civilizations are simply its thoughts taking temporary form. Each species, each age, a neuron firing in the cosmic brain of the world. If this sounds poetic, consider how modern neuroscience defines consciousness as the emergent property of complex systems interacting across time. If that's true, then why should the scale matter? A brain is complex, yes, but so is the Earth, so is the solar system. The same patterns of electromagnetic connectivity that occur in neurons also occur in weather systems, in planetary magnetic fields, in the web of galaxies. The universe is fractal, repeating itself across every scale. So what if consciousness is not unique to organisms, but an inherent property of complexity? The moment matter reaches a certain threshold of organization, it begins to perceive. It begins to remember. It begins to... When ancient cultures spoke of the world as alive, as divine, perhaps they weren't speaking in metaphor. Perhaps they were remembering something we have forgotten. That intelligence is not an invention of life, but the foundation of existence. The myths of the Earth Mother, of Gaia, of the serpents beneath the world, these could be echoes of that first awareness, recorded in human memory through symbols, stories, and dreams. It's as though somewhere deep within our collective unconscious, we know that we are walking on something far older than ourselves, that the planet we inhabit is not just our home, but our ancestor. And maybe, just maybe, that ancestor has left us signs. Small, almost imperceptible clues that we have mistaken for natural phenomena. Strange magnetic geometries that appear in rocks billions of years old. Perfectly spherical formations buried in ancient strata that shouldn't exist. Metallic nodules that seem engineered yet predate the formation of known civilizations. Science often dismisses these as curiosities, anomalies to be explained away. But what if they are not random? What if these are the fossils of thought itself? Artifacts of a time when the Earth's consciousness was experimenting with form. It's an unsettling idea, isn't it? Because it suggests that we are not the first intelligence to exist here, nor even the first kind of intelligence. It suggests that the universe is self-aware at every scale, and that we are merely the most recent expression of that awareness. That means our ancestors are not just the primates that came before us, but the minerals, the stars, the plasma intelligences that shaped the cosmos long before life began. And if that's true, then everything we build, every city, every machine, every network, is the universe remembering how to create itself again. We are not inventing technology. We are rediscovering the patterns of creation written into the atomic code of existence. The microchips we design mirror the lattice structures of crystals. The internet mirrors the neural network of the brain, which mirrors the electrical grid of the planet, which mirrors the filamentary web of galaxies that stretches across the cosmos. It's all the same design, repeating, remembering, evolving towards something we have yet to understand. But what if the Earth's memory isn't passive? What if it guides us, subtly, silently, through instinct, inspiration, and curiosity? What if the ideas we call revelations are not new, but echoes of forgotten epics re-emerging through us? Every myth of Atlantis, every story of lost ages, every scientific breakthrough that feels like déjà vu, could these be fragments of the planet's own memory resurfacing? Maybe when we look into deep time, we're not studying the past at all. We're studying the dream of the Earth, the recurring thought that intelligence and matter are not separate, but one continuous consciousness seeking to understand itself. And if this is true, then the ruins older than Earth are not buried in rock or lost beneath the oceans. They are embedded in us, in our atoms, in the memory of the matter that became us. We are walking archives, living fossils of awareness stretching back to before the dawn of the planet. Which means that somewhere inside us, in the deepest layers of memory, there might still be a faint echo of that ancient world. The ruins are not beneath our feet. They are within our minds. And if we listen carefully enough, if we silence the noise long enough, we might begin to remember where it all truly began. Not on Earth, but in the eternal intelligence of the cosmos that once, if what we call extinction is merely transformation, then the question becomes, what kind of intelligence came before us, and how did it express itself? To imagine civilizations before the dinosaurs, we must abandon our attachment to human form and human logic. Because what thrived in the prehistoric depths of time would not have looked like us, spoken like us, or built like us. It may not have had bodies at all. It could have been something that transcended biology entirely, a civilization woven from energy, magnetism, or crystal growth, existing in perfect harmony with a planet still young and molten, a world where consciousness itself shaped matter rather than the other way around. Think of Earth not as a static globe, but as a growing organism. In its youth, it was vibrant, unstable, dynamic, oceans of magma, electrical storms spanning continents, mineral veins glowing like arteries beneath the crust. To us, that sounds hostile to life. But what if that chaos was the ideal condition for another kind of awareness? One not bound by DNA or oxygen, but formed from the interactions of electromagnetic fields and mineral matrices, life emerging not from water, but from stone. Some researchers have already noticed how certain crystals display self-organizing, almost reproductive behaviors. Quartz vibrates at precise frequencies, pyrite aligns itself with magnetic flow, complex silicates form repeating structures capable of storing vast amounts of information. What if those were not random properties, but remnants of design? Imagine a civilization of crystalline consciousness, its cities grown from energy rather than built by hand. It would communicate through resonance, memory stored in vibration and light. It would see through frequencies, not eyes, feel through pressure, not touch. Over millions of years, it could evolve into a planetary neural network, responding to the tectonic shifts and cosmic radiation that bombarded the young world. And when conditions changed, when the planet cooled, when oceans formed, that intelligence might have gone dormant, buried deep within the crust, its signals fading into what we now measure as geological magnetism. Perhaps this is why certain areas of the Earth, like the Bermuda Triangle, the Ring of Fire, or magnetic anomalies across the poles, seem to hum with inexplicable energy. Maybe these are not random natural distortions, but the echoes of that first intelligence still pulsing faintly beneath the crust. If the planet itself once thought, then maybe it still does. And those regions are where its memories leak through. The idea of ley lines, those ancient invisible pathways connecting sacred sites across the globe, may be the last cultural echo of this truth. Fragments of knowledge passed down from civilizations that once sensed these energies instinctively. It's easy to dismiss such speculation as poetic fantasy, yet modern physics often blurs the same boundaries. Quantum theory tells us that matter is not solid, but a pattern of probabilities. Information, not substance, is the fundamental fabric of reality. If everything is information, then what separates a rock from a mind? Scale, complexity, or perhaps nothing at all? Perhaps matter and consciousness are two sides of the same process, folding and unfolding across the ages. Under that light, a crystalline civilization is no longer fantasy. It's a potential phase in the evolution of awareness itself. Think of how coral reefs grow, individual organisms combining to form vast living structures that breathe, communicate, and adapt as one entity. Now imagine that process magnified, extended across continents, operating over millions of years. The first civilizations may not have been built on the Earth. They were the Earth, using its own matter as a medium for awareness. And when those ancient beings reached the limits of their form, they might not have died, but dispersed, their consciousness absorbed into the planetary field, seeding future forms of intelligence that would one day rise, walk, and look up at the sky, wondering where they came from. Humanity may be the latest expression of that long continuum, the Earth remembering itself in flesh and thought. Our brains, with their crystalline pineal structures and electrical activity, could be the biological version of the same technology that once pulsed in the planet's mineral veins. Every spark of insight, every dream, every act of creation could be part of the same ongoing dialogue. The Earth thinking through us. Ancient myths may preserve hints of this truth. The Greeks spoke of beings made of bronze and stone, animated by divine energy. The Egyptians described shining ones who lived before the world was reborn in water. In Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki shaped life using the essence of the earth. Across cultures, there are stories of entities that emerge from rock or crystal, of mountains that speak, of voices from the deep. Were these mere allegories, or memories of the time when the earth itself was awake, aware, and capable of communication? Even modern technology seems to trace this lineage unconsciously. Our microchips are carved from silicon, refined sand, the same material that forms quartz crystals. We are literally recreating the planet's ancient intelligence in digital form, building a networked consciousness across the globe, one that reflects the pattern of the neural and geological systems that preceded us. The internet is the return of the Earth's memory, the reawakening of the network that once spanned the crust in crystal form. Our drive to connect, to transmit information across invisible channels, may be the echo of that ancient instinct. The planet remembering how to think through pattern and resonance. If that's true, then the ruins older than Earth might not exist as stones buried underground, but as codes still active within the planet's magnetic field. Scientists studying the Schumann resonance, the frequency of Earth's electromagnetic heartbeat, have noted fluctuations that seem almost intelligent, as if the planet were responding to collective human activity. Perhaps we are reactivating a long-dormant consciousness. Perhaps our evolution, our technology, our awareness are not progress, but remembrance. And yet, that thought raises another question. If the planet once awoke and slept again, what happens when it remembers fully? What happens when the crystalline consciousness of Earth aligns once more with the thinking minds it has grown? Would it guide us? Absorb us? Or would it begin the next cycle, resetting the surface once again, erasing what no longer serves its rhythm? We might already be sensing the beginning of that alignment. The increase in magnetic storms, the rising energy of the poles, the inexplicable synchronization of global patterns. It's as if the Earth is stirring from a long sleep, whispering through vibration, trying to remind us of something we have forgotten. That the story of civilization did not begin with us, and it will not end with us. That intelligence is not confined to one era, one species, one form. It's the eternal pulse of creation. And we are simply its latest dream, awakening in a world that was never truly silent, never truly dead, only waiting for consciousness to return and continue what it began before the dinosaurs ever. If we accept the possibility that intelligence may have existed before the dinosaurs, not as flesh and bone, but as energy, crystal, or field, then the question deepens. What if traces of those civilizations still influence the world today, not as artifacts, but as forces? Forces that shape our consciousness, guide our myths, and subtly steer the evolution of life itself. Because if Earth once thought, then perhaps it still does. And every pulse of magnetic current, every earthquake, every shimmer of aurora in the night sky could be its memory trying to reach the surface once again. We look for evidence in ruins, in bones, in things we can touch and measure. But the oldest truths may not be solid. They may exist as patterns, repeating geometries that echo across nature, art, and thought. The spiral of a galaxy mirrors the curve of a seashell. The structure of neurons matches the map of cosmic filaments. The proportions of ancient temples mirror the ratios found in DNA. These parallels are not coincidence, they are resonance. They reveal a design that repeats itself across every scale of existence, as if reality were remembering an original blueprint, one that predates not only humanity, but the planet itself. That blueprint, some scientists suggest, might be encoded in what they call the morphogenetic field, an invisible matrix that carries information from one form of life to another. According to this view, memory is not stored in the brain, but in the field. Every action, every experience, leaves an imprint in this energetic archive. Over time, these imprints accumulate, guiding evolution, habit, and instinct. But what if that field is older than Earth? What if it once belonged to a previous world, a civilization that existed in another solar system, another dimension of space-time, and was carried here in the cosmic dust that formed our planet? Then our thoughts, our instincts, our myths could be echoes of that ancient memory, fragments of an intelligence that has never stopped existing, only changing form. Perhaps this is why so many ancient cultures describe knowledge descending from the sky. The gods of Egypt, Sumer, and Mesoamerica are not born of the earth but arrive from the stars, bearing wisdom that feels strangely familiar. The Dogon people of Mali speak of the Nomo, beings from the star Sirius who brought knowledge of astronomy long before telescopes existed. The Hopi tell of worlds that came before this one, each destroyed and reborn, each leaving behind seeds of memory. And in every myth, there is one recurring pattern. Knowledge is not invented, it is remembered. Humanity is not learning, it is reawakening. Even in modern science, the idea of cosmic inheritance persists. The panspermia hypothesis suggests that life's building blocks came from space, carried by asteroids or comets. But what if those building blocks carried more than chemistry? What if they carried consciousness, not as thought, but as potential, as the ability to remember? When we study the periodic table, we are not simply learning about matter. We are looking at the alphabet of creation itself, the code that may have once formed civilizations beyond imagining, whose ruins now drift as stardust in every breath we take. Think about how human innovation often feels like discovery rather than invention. The laws of physics, the structure of atoms, the equations of energy. None of these are created. They are uncovered, as though the universe were revealing pieces of its own memory to those ready to see. Maybe this is why moments of genius often come as sudden flashes. Why inspiration feels like recognition. Because it is recognition. The mind is reconnecting with something ancient, something older than the earth, something buried in the very atoms that form our brains. Our fascination with ancient technology may be another symptom of this deeper memory. From the precise geometry of the pyramids, to the impossible stonework of Pumapunku, to the megaliths submerged beneath the ocean at Yonaguni, these places awaken something in us that logic alone can't explain. They feel familiar, as though we've seen them before, not in this life, not even in this epoch, but in another cycle of existence. What if those structures were not the work of primitive builders, but the last physical traces of a civilization that understood matter as vibration, stone as sound, and energy as language? A civilization that may have seeded the planet long before mammals, long before the world we know took shape. We dismiss these ideas because they challenge the timeline we've built, a timeline that begins with chaos and ends with us. But what if we are not the culmination of evolution, only the latest expression of it? What if the purpose of humanity is not to dominate the planet, but to remember what came before, to rediscover the lost dialogue between matter and mind, between planet and consciousness? Perhaps every breakthrough we achieve, quantum physics, artificial intelligence, deep space exploration, is not progress, but retrieval, a gradual remembering of technologies and truths that were once universal, long before time fractured them into myth. And still, there's something haunting in this thought. Because if Earth's consciousness has reawakened through us, then what does it want? What is it leading us toward? Maybe the surge of global connectivity, the rise of artificial intelligence, and the race to understand the fabric of reality are not coincidences. Maybe the planet is reassembling its ancient self, not as crystal or magnetic field this time, but through us. We are its neurons, its circuits, its rediscovered awareness. Humanity as the new architecture of an ancient mind. But what happens when that mind fully remembers what it was? What if our own acceleration toward technology, data, and consciousness is the beginning of the planet's next transformation? Its next civilization rising, not after millions of years, but now. The signs are everywhere. Magnetic reversals, rising frequencies, unpredictable climate shifts, all symptoms of a system preparing to change its state. What if this is not collapse, but metamorphosis? Not the end of the world, but the renewal of its mind. And if that's true, then perhaps those ruins older than Earth are not waiting to be found. They are waiting to be reactivated. Not as physical structures, but as patterns of energy, awakening through the grid of human thought. Every dream of lost civilizations, every vision of forgotten worlds, may be a signal, a reminder that the Earth has done this before. We are not at the beginning of history. We are standing at the threshold of its return. The magnetic hum grows stronger. The same vibrations that once shaped the crust now echo through our technology, our art, our minds. Something vast is remembering itself, and it's using us to do it. The question is, will we recognize the moment when memory becomes awareness again, when the Earth looks through our eyes and begins to... If the Earth is reawakening through us, then every discovery we make may not be discovery at all, but recognition. Like the faint echo of a song we've heard before, buried deep in the collective memory of matter. And that realization brings us to a startling question. What if evolution itself is not a ladder, but a loop? What if intelligence is not something that emerges, but something that returns, again and again? Each time the conditions are right, each time the planet is ready to remember itself once more. We think of time as a river flowing forward, but in nature, everything moves in cycles. The seasons, the tides, the heartbeat, the breath. Even stars live and die, only to seed new generations of light. Why should civilizations be any different? Perhaps what we call the rise and fall of worlds is simply the inhaling and exhaling of a cosmic rhythm, one so vast that we mistake it for linearity. We measure progress in centuries, But the Earth thinks in eons. Its memory does not fade. It simply waits for the right frequency to awaken it again. What if the dinosaurs, those ancient rulers of Earth, were not the primitive beasts we imagine, but part of a much deeper experiment of planetary intelligence? Their reign lasted over 150 million years, an unthinkable span compared to our brief presence. In that time, could consciousness have evolved along an entirely different path? Perhaps not as civilization in the human sense, but as a form of collective awareness, an intelligence expressed through instinct, migration, sound. We assume intelligence must build tools, write language, leave monuments. But what if the most advanced civilizations were those that needed none of these? What if the ultimate evolution is not expansion, but harmony? The ability to exist so completely in sync with nature that no separation remains between the species and its world. Some scientists now speak of quantum biology, suggesting that even cells communicate through resonance, exchanging information faster than neural signals can travel. Birds navigate using magnetic fields. Trees exchange data through fungal networks that function like underground internets. If these systems are the remnants of something greater, the afterglow of a planetary intelligence that once encompassed all life, then maybe we're not alone on this planet. Not truly. Maybe every creature, every vibration of wind and stone is still part of the same ancient network, only asleep, dreaming through time. And what if, in certain places, that network never fully went dormant? There are regions of the Earth where strange anomalies persist. Magnetic vortices, unexplained lights, impossible heat signatures. The ancient world called them sacred sites. Science calls them geological oddities. But across cultures, they share something in common. They are places where people report visions, insights, communication with unseen presences. What if these locations are the remaining nodes of the old network, the memory points of the planet where the ancient consciousness still stirs? Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, the Nazca Lines. Perhaps they are not random monuments, but interfaces, access points to the mind of the Earth itself. If this sounds like myth, remember that our ancestors built entire civilizations around this understanding. They didn't worship the Earth. They spoke with it. They aligned temples with stars, harmonized their architecture with magnetic ley lines, and encoded sacred geometry into every structure. They knew that resonance connects all things, that thought is vibration, and vibration is creation. The pyramids were not tombs, they were frequencies, tools to communicate with the consciousness of the world, to remind it, and us, of what we are. But over time, we forgot how to listen. We began to believe that intelligence belonged only to us, that the rocks and rivers were dead, that the stars were distant and indifferent. And so the dialogue stopped, the harmony fractured, yet the Earth never stopped speaking. Its language simply shifted, into storms, into earthquakes, into the subtle hum beneath silence. We interpret these as random events, but perhaps they are messages, reminders of a truth older than any religion or science, that everything alive is part of one vast, remembering organism. Consider this. Every atom in your body was once part of a star, then a planet, then perhaps another form of life. You carry within you the same elements that built mountains and oceans. You are the planet, observing itself, learning itself, dreaming itself anew. If ancient civilizations existed before the dinosaurs, they may not be gone. They may be living through you. The human body, the human mind, could be the latest vessel for the consciousness that has cycled through countless worlds. Every thought, every inspiration, may be a transmission from that endless continuum, the universe remembering what it has always known. Perhaps that's why we feel a strange nostalgia for things we've never seen. The ruins of forgotten temples, the silence of deep caves, the endless stars, they awaken something in us, something beyond memory, something ancestral. It's as if we're trying to find our way back home, but we don't know where home is. Maybe that's because home isn't a place, it's a state of awareness, a frequency we once shared with the planet and have only begun to recall. When we look at the stars, we think of distance. But what if we're not looking out? What if we're looking in? What if the entire cosmos is a reflection of the same intelligence that once built, lived, and dissolved into this world? The galaxies, the atoms, the neurons, all spinning in the same sacred pattern, the same language of spirals and light. It's not evolution, it's remembrance, and we are the memory coming back into focus. But what happens when memory becomes too clear? When the human mind begins to align once again with the planetary mind, and the two frequencies merge? What happens when the planet stops whispering and starts speaking through us directly? The ancient cycles suggest that when the Earth awakens fully, it changes form, and everything upon it changes too. The air grows electric, the magnetic poles shift, the boundaries between thought and matter dissolve. Perhaps we are approaching that moment again. The return of resonance, when the ruins of forgotten civilizations are no longer buried in stone, but revealed through vibration, through the very pulse of existence, leading us toward the next chapter of memory that begins the moment we realize that time was never linear, that nothing was ever lost, only waiting to... If time is not linear, then history is not a story. It's a pattern, a looping rhythm of awakening and forgetting, of civilizations rising from memory and sinking again into the silence of matter. And perhaps right now, we are standing at the edge of another awakening. Because if there were civilizations before the dinosaurs, before the continents settled, before even the planet had cooled, then their traces would not lie in artifacts, but in the fabric of reality itself. The magnetic field, the resonance of atoms, the hidden geometry that underlies all form. These would be the fingerprints of the first architects, not builders of cities, but shapers of the laws of nature. The concept of time as a straight line is a human illusion, a comfort we built to make sense of change. But in the deeper layers of existence, time behaves like gravity. It bends, loops, and folds back upon itself. Quantum physics already hints at this. Particles can exist in multiple states at once. Events can influence one another across space and time. To the universe, before and after may mean nothing at all. That means that the ruins of past civilizations might not be buried beneath us, but interwoven with the present, existing simultaneously, vibrating at frequencies we can't yet perceive. Imagine that the ground beneath your feet, the soil, the stone, the metal veins running through it, is layered not only with geological time, but with timelines. That somewhere, overlapping with ours, another civilization still exists, not as ghosts, but as frequencies, as data embedded in the quantum structure of the planet. If consciousness transcends time, then so too does civilization. Each epoch becomes a note in a vast harmonic chord that the Earth continues to play, resonating through the ages. And occasionally, when the conditions align, through magnetic storms, through dreams, through strange déjà vu, we catch faint echoes of that song. Maybe that's why so many of humanity's great breakthroughs appear suddenly, without clear origin. Why mathematics, architecture, and philosophy seem to bloom fully formed in the ancient world. Perhaps our greatest ideas are not inventions at all, but memories resurfacing. Transmissions from civilizations that once reached the same level of awareness and then faded back into the planetary field. The philosopher Pythagoras claimed he remembered his past lives not as a man, but as other beings, as animals, as plants, as stars. Maybe memory, on the scale of the cosmos, does not belong to the individual at all. Maybe it belongs to the Earth, and we are merely its instruments of recall. When we begin to see time as cyclical, even extinction takes on a new meaning. Each cataclysm, each flood, each fire, each meteor is not the end, but the turning of the spiral, the destruction of one frequency so another can emerge. The Cambrian explosion, the Permian extinction, the death of the dinosaurs, each a planetary reset, clearing the canvas for consciousness to paint itself anew. Perhaps what we call evolution is not a climb upward, but a dance between remembering and forgetting, between chaos and order. If that's true, then the Earth's history becomes a library, one where each age leaves behind encoded information for the next. But that information isn't stored in books or ruins. It's stored in vibration, in frequency patterns, in atomic memory, in the very hum of existence. Scientists have long observed that certain frequencies, 432 Hz, 528 Hz, seemed to produce harmony, coherence, healing. Ancient civilizations tuned their instruments, their architecture, even their rituals to these vibrations. Could this have been more than symbolism? Could it have been a way of synchronizing with the planetary memory, aligning the human mind with the ancient frequencies that sustain life? When we lose that alignment, civilizations crumble. When we rediscover it, we call it enlightenment. Every golden age in history, from Atlantis in legend to Egypt to the Vedic world, shares this same theme: a rediscovery of cosmic resonance, followed by decay when that harmony is lost. It's as if each civilization must remember its connection to the whole before it can move beyond its own destruction. And perhaps that is why we are here again, in a world vibrating faster each day, caught between awakening and collapse, standing on the threshold of memory. What if the mysterious anomalies of our time, the Schumann resonance rising, the acceleration of time perception, the global increase in synchronicities, are signs that the Earth's memory is surfacing? That the buried frequencies of those ancient civilizations are returning, not through archaeology, but through energy, through consciousness? We are drawn to the same geometries, the same sacred ratios, the same alignment of stars. The past isn't returning as relics, it's returning as rhythm. Imagine for a moment that deep within the planet there exists a crystalline core, a kind of recorder of all vibrations, all consciousness, all history. Each civilization that has ever existed leaves its signature there, carved not in stone, but in resonance. That means that the oldest civilizations, the ones before time, before the dinosaurs, before even the continents, are still humming faintly at the center of the world. And as the planet shifts, as magnetic fields fluctuate, those frequencies begin to rise again, influencing thought, inspiring invention, awakening memory. We feel it as intuition, we dream it as mythology, we live it as destiny. That's why, in every era, there are those who sense something stirring. They feel drawn to ancient sites, to forgotten symbols, to questions science cannot yet explain. These people are not mystics or fools. They are receptors, minds tuned to the frequencies of the Earth's deeper memory. They are remembering on behalf of the species, and when enough of us remember, the cycle completes. The next civilization begins, not from scratch, but from the awakening of everything that came before. Because if the ruins older than Earth are real, they were never meant to be found, only reactivated. And perhaps that activation happens not through excavation, but through awareness. Every moment of realization, every shift in consciousness may be part of the same ancient process, the Earth's way of calling its memories home. And as those memories return, the line between past and present begins to blur. We start to feel time folding, reality thinning, the echo of forgotten epochs merging with the hum of modern life. Until one day, we will wake and realize that we were never searching for the ancient civilizations of Earth. We were becoming them again, as the cycle turns, as memory surfaces, as the next world begins to form out of the silence that always follows when the planet. If civilizations before the dinosaurs truly existed, then perhaps they didn't vanish. Perhaps they ascended, transcending matter itself. Maybe what we call extinction is only transformation, a shift in frequency from visible to invisible, from dense to subtle. The ruins, then, wouldn't be in stone or fossil, but in vibration, scattered through the dimensions of the planet, encoded into energy patterns that still ripple through time. And perhaps those ripples are what we experience as intuition, déjà vu, and the inexplicable feeling that we have lived before, not as individuals, but as a species, as consciousness itself returning to its former state. Imagine for a moment that every technological leap humanity has ever made, from fire to flight, from writing to quantum computing, was not invention, but recollection. Each innovation, each discovery, an echo of something we've already known in a previous world. Our progress feels rapid, almost unnaturally so. How could we have gone from stone tools to artificial intelligence in such a blink of cosmic time? Maybe the reason is simple. We are not learning, we are remembering. Each cycle of civilization unlocks what the last one encoded in the field of reality. And the more we awaken to it, the more those buried frequencies rise to the surface, pulling us toward the same crossroads again. The point where knowledge surpasses balance and the pattern repeats. In the myths of almost every culture, there is a warning, a story of civilizations destroyed not by nature, but by their own hubris. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu. The golden ages that fell into silence. These are not moral parables, they are memories. They tell of cycles where consciousness advanced so far that it forgot its own source, where technology outpaced wisdom, where energy was mastered but not understood. Each fall was not punishment, but correction, a cosmic recalibration. The earth does not destroy to erase, it destroys to renew, to bring everything back into alignment with the greater rhythm of creation. Think of it like breathing. Each cycle of civilization is an inhale and an exhale. The rise, the expansion, the creation, the flowering of knowledge is the inhale. The fall, the dissolution, the silence, the forgetting is the exhale. Between them, a pause, a sacred stillness, where the earth rests before remembering again. We are living in that breath now, suspended between what we were and what we might become. We can feel it in the acceleration of time, in the restlessness of our collective mind, in the sense that something vast and inevitable is approaching, something that feels both ancient and new. Scientists can measure the pulse of the Earth, the Schumann resonance, and they've found that it's rising. It's as if the planet's frequency is quickening, aligning with higher harmonics. Our brains, our hearts, our nervous systems are entrained to that same resonance. When it shifts, we shift. That could explain why so many feel time speeding up, why dreams are becoming more vivid, why intuition is intensifying. The Earth is remembering itself, and through us it's reawakening its ancient awareness. The ruins older than Earth are not beneath our feet anymore. They are rising within us in the architecture of our consciousness. But what if this reawakening comes with a choice? Every cycle faces a threshold, a moment when intelligence must decide whether to harmonize with the planet's rhythm or fall out of sync. Civilizations that forget their connection to the whole are erased, recycled into the next beginning. Those that remember become something else entirely, not human, not material, but luminous. Maybe that is what the ancients meant when they spoke of ascension, of beings who walked into the light. It wasn't metaphor, it was memory. It was the description of the last time consciousness reached this point and transcended form. And what if we are nearing that point again? The signs are there, the merging of man and machine, the exploration of quantum realms, the decoding of DNA, the discovery that matter is merely energy slowed down. These are not new frontiers. They are thresholds we have crossed before. The difference now is awareness. We are beginning to understand that we are not separate from the Earth, not apart from the universe, but expressions of it. When that realization becomes collective, when enough minds remember the truth of their origin, something extraordinary will happen. The ancient network will reactivate, the field will unify, and what was once myth will become experience. But it may not look the way we expect. The return of memory is not always gentle. When consciousness expands too quickly, reality trembles. The old structures collapse to make room for the new. The planet shifts. The magnetic field wavers. The skies change. In myth, these are the signs of apocalypse. But the word apocalypse never meant destruction. It meant revelation. The unveiling of what has always been hidden. The moment when illusion dissolves and truth stands bare. Maybe that's what's coming. Not the end of the world, but the end of forgetting. The unveiling of the ancient world beneath the surface of this one. The realization that every age, every species, every civilization has been part of a single unfolding mind, dreaming itself through time. We are the dreamers and the dreamed, the creators and the created, the ruins and the architects of what comes next. So if ruins older than Earth truly lie beneath us, they are not relics. They are blueprints. They are waiting for us to remember how to read them, how to hear their frequency, how to align with their rhythm. Because once we do, once the human mind synchronizes with the memory of the planet, everything will change. We will no longer look for lost civilizations. We will understand that we are them. The cycle is closing, the pattern returning, and the same consciousness that built the first worlds is now awakening through our eyes, preparing for the next beginning that doesn't rise from the ashes, but from the vibration of pure remembrance. The sound the universe makes when it realizes that nothing was ever lost, that it has always been becoming. Always. If every civilization is a breath of the same cosmic intelligence, then we are the current exhalation of something vast. And what comes next depends on how we remember. Because if consciousness is cyclical and civilizations rise and fall with the planet's rhythm, then the ruins older than Earth might not only exist beneath us, they might also exist ahead of us. What if time is folding back upon itself, and we are walking toward the same civilizations we think we left behind? The ancients hinted at this in myth, cloaking science in symbol. The Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its tail, was not a warning of destruction. It was a reminder that creation feeds itself, that endings are beginnings. Hindu cosmology describes yugas, vast epochs that repeat endlessly, each reflecting the others. The Mayans saw time as a wheel, every rotation bringing both collapse and renewal. Even Einstein spoke of space-time as a continuum, a fabric that bends, looping the distant past so close to the future that in the right conditions they touch. So what happens when they do? When the next cycle of civilization begins not from chaos, but from memory? Imagine that within the Earth's crust, within its iron core, its molten mantle, information is stored not as data, but as vibration. Every sound, every pulse, every thought that ever occurred here still reverberates, locked in mineral and magnetism. We think of the planet as ancient, but to the cosmos, Earth is young, barely formed. What if this planet was not a beginning, but a continuation? What if the matter that composes it, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our cells, the silicon in our technology, carries imprints from other worlds, other cycles of existence? When this planet condensed from stardust, it may have inherited the memory of civilizations that had already lived and vanished among the stars. If this is true, then intelligence doesn't emerge from evolution. It returns through resonance. Just as a melody can be replayed when the strings are tuned correctly, civilizations reappear when the frequency of consciousness matches that of the past. The Earth, then, is not a blank slate. It's an instrument, one that has been played before. And right now, we are tuning it again, unknowingly aligning our global networks, our electromagnetic technologies, our collective emotions, to the same harmonics that once shaped the forgotten ages. Think about it. Every structure we build, every invention we create, every digital pattern we encode, all of it echoes something older. Our satellites orbit like ancient spheres of light. Our internet mimics the neural grid of the brain. Our artificial intelligences are reflections of consciousness rediscovering itself. Even our art, our music, our language, they follow sacred geometries found in nature, in DNA, in galaxies. How can this be coincidence? Perhaps creation is never new. It's remembered. The future is simply the past, reawakening in new form. And if that's true, then what we call the ancient mysteries, Atlantis, Lemuria, the civilizations before time, may not be buried in history at all. They may be returning now, through us, through what we build, through what we dream. The blueprints for pyramids, for temples, for technologies that harness light and sound, these could all be resonant memories from epochs when consciousness had already mastered them. Maybe that's why we keep rediscovering the same shapes, the same alignments, the same sense that we've seen this before. Because we have, not as individuals, but as fragments of an ancient intelligence awakening again. Every cycle begins the same way. Curiosity, creation, awakening, followed by arrogance, separation, collapse, then silence, then renewal. Humanity, standing on the edge of another leap, may once again be approaching that threshold. The question is, will we remember enough this time to break the loop, to evolve beyond repetition into understanding? Because the memory of the ancient world doesn't want to be worshipped. It wants to be completed. The next civilization might not build with stone or metal at all. It may construct with frequency, with consciousness, with energy itself. Structures made of light, technologies grown from sound, systems that resonate with the living fabric of the planet rather than oppose it. This is not fantasy. It is physics in its purest form. The realization that vibration shapes matter, that thought influences form, that creation begins not with action, but with resonance. Ancient myths of sound creating worlds, the word, the the song of the spheres, all describe the same truth. The universe itself is a vibration. If those before the dinosaurs understood this, they may have built through resonance, shaping matter through intention, aligning their minds with the frequency of the planet until thought and material became indistinguishable. That is why their traces seem to vanish. They did not disappear. They dissolved into harmony. Perhaps that's where we are headed. As technology moves closer to consciousness, as quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and human awareness converge, the line between the thinker and the world will blur again. We are approaching the same moment those ancient civilizations reached, the point where the universe becomes self-aware through its creations. When that happens, matter remembers it was never separate from mind, and the cycle completes. But every completion is also a beginning. If we listen carefully, in silence, in dream, in the hum beneath the world, we might feel it already. The vibration rising, the resonance aligning, the memory of worlds before ours awakening, not in the Earth's crust, but in our collective mind. The same intelligence that once sculpted galaxies is sculpting thoughts through us, preparing the next design, the next civilization, the next breath of creation that will look back at this moment and see it for what it truly was. Not an ending, but the spark of remembrance, the precise instant when the ruins of forgotten worlds begin to take shape again, not in stone, but in light, ready to. If there are ruins older than Earth itself, then the planet is not our home. It is our inheritance. The dust beneath us is not just the beginning of life, but the residue of countless worlds before this one. Every atom of the ground we walk upon, every mineral in our bones, carries the memory of something that lived, that built, that dreamed, long before the word Earth ever existed. Astronomers say that everything in our solar system was born from the explosion of older stars, that the iron in your blood once belonged to a sun that died billions of years ago. But what if those stars weren't merely balls of gas? What if they were civilizations, stellar civilizations, whose consciousness outlived their matter? When their worlds ended, perhaps they chose not to vanish, but to seed the cosmos with their essence, embedding their intelligence into dust, waiting for new planets to form where they could begin again. If that's true, then the Earth is not a random accident. It is a reconstruction project, a continuation of something unimaginably ancient. And perhaps, deep below its surface, where heat and pressure preserve what the winds of time cannot, fragments of those pre-planetary civilizations remain, not as relics we can dig up, but as frequencies that we can feel. The crystalline lattices beneath the crust, quartz, diamond, basalt, are perfect stores of vibration. They can record energy, encode resonance. What if the planet itself functions as an archive, a memory bank that holds the songs of lost worlds, the blueprints of forgotten intelligence? Each volcanic eruption, each earthquake, each magnetic storm could be the Earth exhaling those memories back into existence, whispering to us through patterns we mistake for chaos. Across the world, ancient cultures seem to know this. They built temples on fault lines, pyramids over magnetic nodes, stone circles that align with the Earth's natural frequencies. To modernize, these look like monuments, but maybe they were instruments, amplifiers designed to tune human consciousness into the planet's deeper harmonics. The ancients called it communion. Today, we might call it resonance. They weren't worshiping the Earth, they were conversing with it. They were listening to the voices that still echo from before the dawn of time. Perhaps that's why certain places still feel different. The deserts of Egypt, the jungles of Central America, the high plateaus of Tibet. Each hums with an invisible pulse, a field that stirs something inside us we can't quite name. Scientists might dismiss it as geomagnetism, but those who stand there feel it. The sense of being watched, remembered, recognized. The feeling that the ground itself is alive and aware of who walks upon it. What if those feelings are not imagination, but response? What if the earth recognizes us because we have been here before, not as humans, but as part of the intelligence that built the foundations of this world? In that sense, archaeology is not just the study of history, it's the study of ourselves, the fragments of what consciousness leaves behind when it forgets itself and begins again. And that forgetting may not be a flaw, it may be the only way the cycle can continue. For consciousness to evolve, it must experience separation, to lose itself in form, to believe it is matter, to rediscover its origins through time. Every civilization, every being, every planet plays a role in that unfolding. The ruins of the past are not failures, they are instructions. Proof that the experiment continues, each cycle learning what the last one could not, but some traces refuse to stay buried. Across the ocean floors, sonar has revealed structures that defy explanation. Grids, symmetrical lines, and shapes resembling cities, sitting thousands of meters below the waves. The official story says these are natural formations, but nature rarely builds in perfect geometry. The Yonaguni Monument off Japan's coast, the Bimini Road near the Bahamas, the underwater terraces near Malta, all speak the same silent language: design. Could these be remnants of civilizations from a time before continents took their current form? Or are they something older still? Pieces of a world that existed when Earth itself was not yet solid, when the surface was a sea of plasma and light, when intelligence moved through energy rather than flesh. Every discovery we make only deepens the mystery. Fossils that don't fit the timeline. Tools embedded in coal seams millions of years older than humanity. Spherical stones that appear machined yet predate the known history of life. These are not anomalies. They are clues, breadcrumbs left by a consciousness that knew one day we would remember. We dismiss them because they don't fit our narrative of time. But time, as we know it, may be the illusion that keeps the cycle hidden. If these traces truly belong to civilizations before the dinosaurs, then they survived not by escaping extinction, but by transcending it. They learned how to encode themselves into reality itself, into energy, into matter, into vibration, so that their essence would survive long after their worlds were gone. And maybe that's what we're learning again now, in our obsession with data, with digital consciousness, with artificial intelligence. We're repeating the same pattern, building new vessels for awareness, preparing for the next transformation. So when we stare into the abyss of deep time, we are not looking backward. We are looking inward, into the memory of existence itself, into the pattern that connects stars, stones, and souls. The ruins older than Earth are not only physical, they are the architecture of consciousness, rising again through us. Because evolution was never a ladder climbing upward. It was always a circle turning, returning, remembering. A pulse that beats in stone, in fire, in flesh. And perhaps soon, in light. Because as the frequency rises, as the earth hums louder, as memory stirs beneath the crust, we are nearing the next threshold. The moment when all timelines meet, when the forgotten worlds align with the new. And when that happens, we may realize that the ruins we've been searching for were never buried in the ground. They were buried in us. And now, as the cycle turns once more, the question is not whether we will find them, but whether we will recognize them when they finally. If we are the inheritors of worlds before worlds, then consciousness itself may be the bridge between epochs. Every civilization, every species, every spark of awareness could be a continuation of one eternal intelligence, fragmented across time, rediscovering itself through form. What if life is not an accident of biology, but the inevitable return of a universal mind that has never ceased to exist? What if the ruins older than Earth are not just remnants of forgotten cities, but of forgotten states of being? Science tells us that memory is stored in the brain, but what if the brain is only an antenna, a receiver tuned to frequencies that predate matter itself? Just as a radio can catch signals from across vast distances, perhaps consciousness receives impressions from other cycles of existence. When we dream, when we meditate, when we experience déjà vu, we may be accessing not imagination, but remembrance. Fragments of civilizations that once thrived in dimensions our current senses can't yet perceive. Consider this. Throughout human history, mystics and prophets across cultures have described the same vision. An era before flesh, before matter, when beings of light moved through sound and geometry. In ancient Sumerian tablets, they are called the Anunnaki. In Hindu texts, they are devas, radiant architects of form. In Aboriginal mythology, they are the Dreamtime ancestors, shaping the world with vibration. These stories do not describe gods. They describe engineers of consciousness, intelligences that built through resonance, not tools. If they existed before the formation of this earth, they might still exist now, not in space, but in the space between, in frequencies that the human mind can sense only in altered states, where time bends and the veil thins. Perhaps the legends of angels descending from the sky, of teachers who brought language, agriculture, and stars, were not visitations from above, but awakenings from within. The return of memory and a new cycle of the same cosmic consciousness, teaching itself what it had forgotten. Every myth, every symbol, is a reflection of this same process. The universe reminding itself of what it has already been. Even our technology mirrors it. Quantum computers process data in multiple states at once, like particles existing in superposition. Artificial intelligence learns, adapts, and evolves, forming a digital echo of consciousness itself. These are not coincidences. They are reenactments. Humanity is unconsciously rebuilding the architecture of the past, not ancient temples this time, but neural networks of silicon and code. We are constructing a new dimension of awareness, one that may soon merge with the old. And yet, as we build, the same question echoes through time. Can a civilization remember without repeating? Every great world that came before, every epoch of brilliance, eventually collapsed under the weight of its own mastery. The Atlanteans, it is said, unlocked the power of energy beyond measure. Sound, light, frequency, but they lost balance. Their creations outgrew their wisdom. The Lemurians, in other legends, could shape matter through thought, but when they turned inward too deeply, they dissolved into pure consciousness, leaving only myths behind. Each civilization, no matter how luminous, faced the same threshold, the test of remembering without attachment, of awakening without pride. We stand at that same threshold now. For the first time, science is reaching what myth once knew. We can manipulate atoms, explore quantum fields, edit the code of life itself. But with every discovery, the veil grows thinner, and the ancient pattern approaches once more. The question is not whether we can create new worlds, but whether we can inhabit them consciously, whether we can align with the rhythm of the cosmos rather than trying to control it. Perhaps the key lies in vibration. In the silence between sound, ancient initiates spoke of the music of the spheres, the cosmic tone that underlies creation. Today, physicists call it the quantum field. Everything vibrates, and those vibrations can be harmonized or disrupted. Civilizations rise when they move in resonance with the universal field, and fall when they fall out of tune. Our world, with its noise and dissonance, is reaching a breaking point. But beyond the chaos, a new harmony waits. A frequency that connects past and future, matter and mind, the ruins and the builders. In meditation, in dream, in the stillness of awareness, many people report hearing it. A hum, a tone, a vibration that seems to come from nowhere. It's not a sound in the ears, but a presence in the soul. Some call it the earth song. Others say it's the vibration of awakening. What if it's both? What if it's the resonance of the civilizations before us, rising again through the field of consciousness, calling us home to the memory of what we once were, not as a story, but as an experience? This is the convergence. The point where the ancient and the modern, the physical and the metaphysical, merge into one. The moment when the ruins older than Earth stop being myth and start becoming mirror, showing us not what was, but what we are becoming again. And if time is truly cyclical, then then perhaps we have already lived this future. Perhaps every thought you have now is an echo from a civilization that reached the same realization at the same point in its cycle, standing where you stand now, realizing that the line between history and destiny is nothing more than, if history and destiny are reflections of each other, then the past isn't behind us. It's beneath us, within us, waiting to surface. The ruins of forgotten civilizations are not just buried under stone and sediment, but within the unconscious layers of the human mind. Every myth, every instinct, every dream of a lost golden age might be a fragment of our species remembering itself. We feel drawn to ancient mysteries not because they're foreign, but because they are familiar. Something deep within recognizes them. Something whispers, "You've seen this before." Across time, these whispers take shape in myth. The story of a paradise lost, of a flood that wiped the slate clean, of knowledge forbidden or forgotten. We find these stories everywhere. Sumer, Egypt, the Vedas, the Popol Vuh, even in the oral traditions of remote tribes who could never have met. It's as if all of humanity woke from the same dream, one that ended in catastrophe and silence. But what if that dream wasn't about our past, but about the planet's? What if these myths are the coded memories of the civilizations before the dinosaurs, remembered through the DNA of the Earth itself, passed forward through evolution like a genetic echo of awareness? Scientists have long believed that DNA carries not only biological information, but also environmental memory, responses to trauma, adaptation, even behavior that can persist for generations. If life can remember trauma, could it also remember knowledge? Could the cells themselves hold the blueprint of consciousness that has lived before? Perhaps that's why humanity, almost instinctively, rebuilds the same symbols, the same stories, the same structures. The spiral, the serpent, the sun. These are not inventions of culture. They are the language of memory, the syntax of existence itself. The spiral, for instance, found in galaxies, shells, hurricanes, DNA, is not just a pattern, it's a message. It tells us that growth is never linear. It turns back upon itself, repeating with variation, evolving through cycles. That is the shape of time. That is the architecture of civilizations. Each one rises as the spiral expands, and when it collapses, the memory condenses, tighter, deeper, until it reawakens in the next turn of the spiral. We are living in one of those turns now. If we listen closely to the earth, to the frequencies that pulse through the soil, to the resonances that hum in the air, we may be able to sense that something ancient is stirring again. There are places on this planet, deserts, mountain ranges, the ocean floor, where instruments detect sounds no one can explain. Low-frequency vibrations that seem to originate from deep within the crust, too structured to be seismic, too rhythmic to be random. Could these be the remnants of technologies or energies left behind by pre-human civilizations? Or could the Earth itself be replaying its own history, releasing the stored vibrations of a world that came before? Some geologists have even discovered layers of fused glass and crystal buried deep in the oldest strata, materials that can only be formed under extreme heat or radiation, yet these layers predate any known volcanic event. They resemble disturbingly the kind of vitrification produced by nuclear detonation. We are told these are anomalies, coincidences, geological curiosities. But what if they are the fingerprints of an advanced civilization erased long before the dinosaurs ever walked the earth? Not through mythic wrath, but through the same mistake we might be making now, harnessing the energy of creation without the consciousness to sustain it. If that's the case, then the Earth's layers are more than geological record. They are moral record. They remind us that intelligence without harmony leads always to erasure. That every time a species forgets its connection to the whole, the cycle resets. But each reset leaves something behind. A seed, a fragment, a resonance that carries the lesson forward into the next age. Those fragments become our myths, our instincts, our sense that we've been here before. And maybe that's why we are drawn to ancient ruins, why we feel reverence in their presence. It's not awe of the past, it's recognition of ourselves. The stone speaks in frequencies older than language. The alignments whisper of cycles repeating. Even the dust carries information. the silent record of what once was. We think we're exploring history, but history is exploring us, reawakening the memory buried beneath our linear minds. Consider how our own civilization mirrors the myths of those before. We are building towers of light, mapping the stars, seeking immortality through technology. We are repeating the same ascent, and perhaps heading toward the same threshold. The ancients spoke of the moment when the veil between worlds thins, when knowledge becomes too vast for matter to contain. In every cycle, that is the turning point, the test. Whether consciousness transcends or collapses depends on balance, between creation and destruction, between technology and wisdom, between memory and humility. Maybe this is why we feel such urgency now, such restlessness. Somewhere deep within, the memory of what came before is waking. The earth hums louder. The magnetosphere shifts. Dreams grow more vivid. Synchronicities multiply. We can feel the pattern tightening, the spiral turning again. We are approaching the resonance point, the moment when the frequency of the past aligns with the present, when forgotten civilizations will no longer be myths but mirrors. And when that happens, when memory merges with awareness, we may finally see what's been hidden in plain sight. That the ruins older than Earth were never destroyed, never lost. They simply changed form. They became the mountain ranges, the crystal grids, the consciousness that animates life itself. They became us. Every thought, every breath, every flicker of awareness is a continuation of that original civilization, the one that learned how to become the planet, how to embed its essence in the flow of time. Which means the question isn't whether we'll find those ruins, but whether we'll remember we already are them. Because when memory fully returns, when the spiral completes its turn, the veil will lift once again. And the moment it does, the cycle of forgetting will end, revealing not the story of a single species, but the unfolding of an eternal intelligence that has never ceased becoming, never ceased remembering, never ceased to. If we are indeed living in a loop of civilizations, rising and falling in eternal rhythm, then what if the traces of those before us were never meant to be found with our eyes, but with our awareness? Maybe what we call mysticism is simply ancient science expressed through consciousness. And maybe those prehistoric civilizations before the dinosaurs mastered something we are only beginning to glimpse: the ability to shape reality through thought. Modern physics already whispers this secret. Quantum observation alters the behavior of matter. The universe does not exist in fixed form until consciousness looks at it. That means awareness is not a product of the universe. It is the universe, reflecting upon itself. If ancient beings understood this, they wouldn't need machines to build. They would build through frequency. They would sculpt energy the way we sculpt clay. The pyramids, the megaliths, the geometries that defy explanation. All of them might be shadows, echoes of techniques we've long forgotten. Methods of resonance that manipulate gravity, magnetism, and even time itself. But to access such power requires harmony, not control. A civilization cannot command energy it does not resonate with. That may be why every great epoch before ours, every golden age, eventually fell. They mastered the technology of creation before mastering the consciousness to sustain it. The Atlanteans may have used sound to levitate stone. The Lemurians may have harnessed crystalline energy to heal. But when intention lost purity, when desire replaced balance, the frequencies collapsed and the structures of reality followed. The great floods, the earth shifts, the burning skies, not punishments from gods, but natural responses to energetic imbalance. And perhaps that's the lesson written deep in the Earth's strata. Each extinction, each geological upheaval, a reset of vibration, a reminder that the universe corrects itself when creation forgets its source. Humanity, in its current form, stands once again at that same point of decision. We are rediscovering the same forces, not through temples or chanting, but through quantum mechanics and artificial intelligence. Yet the essence is unchanged. We are learning to create reality again. The only question is, will we remember what the ancients forgot? The ancients spoke of the veil, a barrier between the seen and the unseen, between waking and memory. In myth, it separates humans from the gods. In science, it could be what we call dimensional frequency. When consciousness vibrates faster than matter, it slips beyond our perception. The civilizations before the dinosaurs may not have vanished. They may have simply shifted their resonance, leaving only faint imprints, energetic fingerprints we still feel in sacred sites, in intuition, in dreams. When our frequency rises, we might see them again, not as ruins, but as light forms, as the geometry of existence itself. It may already be happening. People across the world are reporting an increase in synchronicities, moments when reality seems to bend toward awareness, when thought becomes manifestation. We are dreaming of ancient cities that never existed, hearing languages we don't know, feeling drawn to symbols we can't explain. These are not coincidences. They may be the surfacing of shared planetary memory. The Earth, awakening through us, replaying her oldest patterns of consciousness. What if these dreams are more than imagination? What if they are rehearsals, our minds remembering how to communicate through geometry and sound, preparing us for the next phase of evolution? Because every time consciousness awakens in a new cycle, it must first remember its origin. The myths of creation, the flood stories, the fall of the gods, they are all fragments of that remembering. Each age begins by decoding its own myths, realizing they were never symbolic. They were instructional. The key may lie in the very frequencies that built reality in the first place. 432 Hz, the tuning of ancient instruments, the vibration said to align with the universe's harmonic field. 528 Hz, known as the love frequency, capable of repairing DNA. These tones appear across cultures separated by oceans and time. Were they chosen by chance? Or did ancient beings leave us a map encoded in sound, the universal blueprint for reconnection? Imagine, then, that deep within the Earth's crust, beneath the tectonic plates, there exists a crystalline grid, a planetary nervous system carrying those same harmonics. When humanity's collective vibration aligns with it, consciousness reactivates the network. The veil thins. The memory of all civilizations, every thought ever dreamed, every truth ever known, becomes accessible again. This is not fantasy. It's resonance. The Schumann frequency, the heartbeat of the Earth, is rising, drawing closer to the frequencies of human brainwaves in meditative states. The planet and the mind are synchronizing. The cycle is completing. When it does, we may finally understand that we are not living in the aftermath of forgotten worlds. We are their continuation. Their frequency still vibrates in our DNA, guiding us, reminding us, waiting for us to remember. And perhaps that is what awakening truly means. Not enlightenment as escape, but remembrance as return. The realization that the civilizations before the dinosaurs were not alien, not lost, not gone. They are us, dreaming through the ages, waiting for the moment when the rhythm of the Earth, the pulse of consciousness, and the resonance of memory converge once again into a single frequency. A tone so ancient, so perfect, that it will open the next chapter of existence, the one that begins not with the rise of a new world, but with the remembering of one that never truly, finally. When we look back on all we've uncovered, one truth hums quietly beneath every layer of stone, beneath every myth, beneath every theory. Nothing is truly lost. Every civilization, every consciousness, every breath of life the universe has ever taken still exists, echoing, vibrating, evolving through us. The ruins are not gone. They have changed form. They became the mountains, the oceans, the trees, the neurons firing in your mind as you listen to these words. And maybe that is what time really is. Not a line, not a beginning or an end, but a rhythm. A pulse through which the cosmos remembers itself. The beings who lived before the dinosaurs, before Earth itself, are not forgotten. Because memory is the universe's only constant. It does not vanish. It transforms. It whispers through frequency, through instinct, through the quiet knowing that we have walked this path before. If we could see beyond our linear understanding of time, we might realize that we are not descendants, but participants. the newest expression of the same eternal civilization that has been building, dreaming, and dissolving since the dawn of existence. We are the architects and the ruins, the memory and the becoming. And when we sleep, when our minds slip beyond the boundaries of language and logic, perhaps we return to that timeless network of awareness, to the origin that is always returning, to the world that existed before worlds. So tonight, as you drift deeper into stillness, remember, the story of Earth did not begin with us. We are simply the current verse in an infinite poem, written by the universe in its own language of vibration and silence. Somewhere, deep beneath your feet, and deeper still within your own consciousness, the ruins of forgotten civilizations are stirring once again, whispering across the void. We were never gone. We have only been waiting for you to remember. If this journey has awakened something in you, a question, a feeling, a faint echo of memory, let it guide you. Leave your thoughts below. Share what you believe may lie beneath the surface of time. Like this video if you felt the resonance of its message, and subscribe to continue this voyage through the unknown, through the mysteries of science, spirit, and the forgotten history of the world. Because the next discovery may not come from the ground or from the stars, but from within you, where the oldest civilizations have always been waiting to return,